John, we've got an exciting show today. Everybody is obviously preoccupied with the political, basically, death of Joe Biden that's happening in real time before our eyes, storing all these documents in the garage with a Corvette. How you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's exciting. It's
Mm-hmm.
exciting to watch turnabout, so they say, right?
Yeah.
Turnabout is fair play, right?
I guess it would have
So,
to be Trump doing this for it to be actual turnabout. This is just a dope hiding documents in a Corvette. I'm going to get into some detail with this with Charles on Sunday. He and I have been discussing it quite a bit. And
mhm.
basically, it seems like this is Obama doing this to Joe Biden to clear the field, get him out of there. It doesn't make a lot of sense that lawyers would look around in your garage and find documents. And it also doesn't make a lot of sense that the person doing it was Barack Obama's White House counsel. But we'll talk about that another day, because another huge topic that is unfolding right now is this chat GPT and the AI associated with that. We're going to be getting into it tonight on the sponsor exclusive episode that people can watch. There's a new default setting here on my switcher that I really dislike, and I forget to turn it off. But people can be able to watch that segment at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. And thank you to the people who've been signing up on odyssey.com/at crowdsource the truth. I really love Odyssey, and it's got a lot of technical features that make it great. But John, what are we going to be talking about tonight with Chat GPT? And we're going to try to actually get on there and experiment with it in real time for our sponsors to actually see what it's doing. But as of right now, it's under such heavy demand, you can't even
Mhm.
log in.
That's right. So right now, the Chat GPT servers are overwhelmed and overloaded. And if you go to the system, it's giving you a message that we're overwhelmed and overloaded. We'll be back soon.
Come back later.
And yeah, and so many people in the audience know that I worked at Oracle and I worked at HP. And one of the things that we did at HP was help companies figure out at what point does this happen to a system? How many
Saturation.
people, right? How many people have to be connected to it in order for it to, to stop
Poop the
working
bed.
properly? As we say,
Yeah.
yes, colloquially. So, but the fascinating piece of this, so there's been a lot of talk about AI, but a system was launched in November. I mean, I don't think it's even been 8 or 10 weeks yet since this
Right.
thing launched and it's beta. Like, this isn't even like a production thing. And companies are already using it. They're using the base technology to do certain things. In fact, I was reading an article right before the show that CNET.com started using it, and nobody noticed
Wow. But using
to
it for
repl-
what?
for their stories. If you go to
What?
in fact, if you go to news.com, if you go to news.com, that's CNET. CNET owns that domain,
Huh.
and they've been using the this technology
Well, why
to
don't you tell
create
everybody
these
what it
pages.
is? Because I think a lot of people don't even really know what it is.
So it's
Oh,
an artificial intelligence engine, and it allows you to type in things. So, for example, you could ask it to write a song in the style of Taylor Swift about Jason's on again, off again 3D filming adventures with Spider Man, right? And it'll do it and it'll write the song. Now, the thing that to me is unbelievable is that it writes code.
yeah.
So you can ask it to write a program. You can say, write the HTML code to manifest a toroidal object rotating on the y axis, and it'll do it. And then if you don't like the way it's rotating, you can say change the rotation to the other direction on the y-axis, and it's unbelievable. So
It
we're going to
really
take a
is.
closer look at that. We're going to take a closer look. You've been using it to generate artwork,
Well,
right?
that's just it. So just to back out a little bit, and this is strange because this is all coming from OpenAI. And yes, I
Yes.
have been using OpenAI. I created an account on OpenAI, and that gives you access to this DAL-E, which is the thing I was using to
It's
create
another
artwork.
module. Right.
Yeah,
This
and
is another
stable
module from the same
diffusion.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to dig into tonight. The company is called OpenAI. DALL-E is their image engine that allows you to create art, again, using artificial intelligence. So you could say, I want to see a portrait of Pamela Anderson in the style of the Mona Lisa. And in seconds, it's done. It's like, here. It's crazy. It can, you know what I saw it do just again today, earlier today, I was looking at images where they fed in cartoon characters like Peter Griffin and Lois Griffin from
Right.
Family Guy and said, can you give us photorealistic images of what these characters would look like if they were real life people?
Wow, that had to be scary.
It was stunning.
Yeah.
It's so this is what we're going to look at with our patrons tonight. Hopefully, we'll get to do it live. If we don't, we'll watch people like Joe Rogan, Brett Weinstein, Ben Shapiro. Whole bunch of people have been monkeying with this thing. Lex Friedman. A lot of people have been monkeying with it over the course of the last week. So when we're with our patrons, what we may have to do is look at a couple clips. It's fascinating. But one of the things I want to talk about is the art department and the what is this you have queued up here? I don't know
Well,
if the
this
audience-
is because you were talking about DALL-E. This is an image that I created. So it's confusing to me where it all, because there's this thing, stable diffusion, that feeds it. But when I got the OpenAI account, I was able to kind of dig in. And this is one of the more advanced things that I did. I said to it, give me an oil painting of Elon Musk getting rolled by the FBI over Twitter. And after doing a bunch of kind of standard definition, sort of low res, video res images, I decided I would turn this up to a higher resolution. So this is, sort of intermediate HD, 1280 pixels wide. And this so dramatically increased the processing time that I just went to sleep and let it cook. And I think, John, I haven't experimented with it enough, but my computer whisperer sense tells me that increasing the resolution to 1280 changed something about the way it calculates beyond just making the same image at a higher spatial resolution. This image has more detail and complexity than almost any of the others that I created. And if I told you I painted this, it's like, why don't you push Hunter Biden out of the gallery and start selling these things for $100,000?
It's remarkable, and I think you're right. I think that when you're telling it the resolution, you're basically telling it, this is how big a sandbox I'm giving you to work
Right.
with. And if you give it a big enough sandbox, this is what I'm saying. When I saw the character, when I saw the Lois Griffin cartoon character manifested by this thing as a human being, it was unbelievable. We'll look at this with our patrons. I don't want to spend too much time on, because we've got a lot of stuff that's breaking right now that is a huge batch of news that most people don't know about. So I'm fascinated by this. In fact, if you go back to the first slide in the deck, it's
There's
the
just
thumbnail.
one more that I want to show you,
Yeah.
because I've spoken a lot about a creep who sits in his RV smelling his own farts, writing all kinds of legal documents to try to thwart crowdsource the truth. And that's basically what I asked DALL-E to create. And look at this. Dude, this borders on genius. I didn't mention the brandy snifter, but man, what a touch.
It's that's why we're going to spend some time on this tonight. This thing is remarkable, and there's already hundreds of videos on YouTube now about how to start a business with it.
I know.
How to start 7 businesses with it. So we're going to explore this tonight with our patrons when we go to Subscribestar and Patreon. The other thing I wanted to tell everybody, so first of all, it's probably important for the audience to understand that from a value perspective, the best value is to subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth at Patreon, Subscribestar, or Odyssey, because you get access to my show, you get access to Charles Ortel, you get access to Lee Stranahan, you get access to all the stuff that Jason's doing with this lawfare stuff. So you get to see everything. When you come and support me, you're specifically supporting my work, And what I've just started doing is publishing the chapters of the book, The
Oh,
Queen's
right.
Gambit, If You Were Laura Ingraham. And so earlier this evening, I published, I think, chapters 4 and 5. So every week, I'm putting out at least one chapter on Patreon and Subscribestar. Now, I don't have the Odyssey paid thing like you do. So you have 3 options for people. They can go to Patreon, Subscribestar, or Odyssey. I only have Patreon and Subscribestar. If you subscribe to my stuff, you don't get to see Lee Stranahan, you don't get to see Charles Ortel, but you get to see the book about the interactions between me and Laura Ingraham. And I've been publishing that now for, I guess, the last 2 weeks. So this
That's
is up.
great.
Yeah, and there's a teaser on YouTube where I just read the first page of these 2 chapters, and then it suggests, if you want to know more, you come to Patreon and Subscribestar. So if you guys aren't subscribed now, you get to access these weekly shows that we do, and we've been doing this now for 3 years,
Yeah.
and we've only not done a show one time, which I think was Christmas Day.
Oh, yeah.
I think is the only time we didn't do a show. So we've not missed a single Friday in 3.5 years. All right.
great.
So the thumbnail, the art department. Wow. I think I'm in love. I think I see. I think this is the next ex Mrs. Cullen. Right. I think we're looking at right my future ex-wife.
But do you want to tell people what this is inspired by and where this?
Yeah. So this is inspired by both the book and the film, Ex Machina. And it's by Alex Garland. Alex Garland is also the guy who wrote the book The Beach, which took place in Koh Samui, which is kind of ironic. So in the conversation that Joe Rogan has with Brett Weinstein this past week about the ChatGPT thing, the AI engine, Joe Rogan talks about the film and says it's one of his favorite films, and he thinks it's pivotal. So he and I are absolutely on the same page with this. This is, to me, the most pivotal film of our time, as far as something that's kind of got a message in it that you better pay very close attention to. And I'm a huge fan of Alex Garland, the author. And the fact that he wrote both The Beach and this, again, it's quite stunning body of work. Two really key pieces. Go ahead.
Let me share this with you here. Joseph Connell is with us in the comments on YouTube, and he's saying, you're promoting your own demise with AI. Good luck with that. I just want to be clear. We're not promoting it. We're observing it. We didn't make this. It's here. And when we say things like this is amazing, it just is. Like I said, I spoke a few words or typed a few words into the computer, and it created an image that looks remarkably like the guy I was talking about. And the idea of, sniffing farts out of a brandy snifter, setting aside the juvenile nature of the request and the silliness of it, how is that not, that's,
And the
I didn't think
style
of that.
The fact that it has a look and all that. So again, we're not, you're exactly right. We're not promoting it. It's new. This thing just showed up in November.
Trying to understand it.
Right. If you don't poke it and prod it, how are you going to know what it is? Right. How are you going to know what's scary about it? And if you want to shut it down, well, you better have a real cogent argument to make. And maybe we can use it as a tool to help communicate things that people are too biased to hear from us.
Now, along those lines, I want to tell people that I did, before I wrote the Twitter coup, which I hope that people will read on crowdsourcethetruth.medium.com. But before I wrote it, I did not know that Louis Freeh had shut down the FBI's Office of Legal Counsel and replaced it with the Office of the General Counsel. But I had a lot of questions about the FBI General Counsel, and I was querying ChatGPT about, who created the Office of General Counsel, who was the first General Counsel, and it gave me some answers which didn't make a lot of sense. And I went and looked up the names of the people who it was saying were involved with the Office of the General Counsel. I couldn't even find those names associated with the FBI. But the questioning of the thing led to other questions in my mind. And even when it gave me wrong answers, it ultimately led to me finding the September 2022 report from the Office of the Inspector General. And that was created by a human, Michael Horowitz. And that gave me all the information I wanted about the FBI General Counsel. The questions about the FBI led me to believe that the FBI might have walled off certain things with ChatGPT, almost like when RoboCop goes to arrest Dick Jones at the end of the first RoboCop movie, and it's giving him that big flashing red Directive 5, and he doesn't know what it is, but it's preventing him from arresting the guy. It's a secret directive that you, RoboCop, cannot arrest any of the executives from OCP. So is there a secret Directive 5 in ChatGPT? You can't ask it about the FBI?
Well, and again, this is why you have to poke it and prod it and see, can we leverage it before it kills us, right? So is there stuff that we can ask it that, like you've been doing already? I want to ask it some questions about the research that we've been doing. Now, it also has a time limitation. I don't think it goes past 2020 or something like that. So new developments in the past year and a half to 2 years may not be in the system, but it knows things up to something like 2020. And again, I'm not sure that's 2020.
I think that is because it's been designed so that it, as far as I understand, and we need to check all of this because I'm not sure, but what I believe is going on is that it is trained on a language model that was made from information on the internet, but it does not actively go out on the internet and search for information to drive the answers. And I don't know if that's just because that's the way they programmed it, or if that's to prevent it from taking over the world, or I don't know what.
As far as the way that it works, I'm less interested in the mechanics of it and how they taught it to do what it does. What I'm interested in are its capabilities now, because again, it has the ability to write code.
Yeah.
It can write Python. It can write Jython. It could, it's like, whoa. So this is changing the game, and this is why we need to look at it. And again, if it's a threat to humanity, well, then we've got an interesting race between that which we reported last week and broke with our patrons who learned about something that may be happening in 6 years. So maybe we've got 6 years between that and between this. It's going to be a race to see which is going to end humanity first. Right. So we'll find out more. All right, why don't we take a look at these slides and go to the first segment of the show that we have tonight before we get into all this AI stuff. I wanted to do some hate mail, great mail stuff. So do you have the deck that I sent you?
Of course, always have the deck at the ready.
Hot diggity. So I know everybody loves hate mail, great mail. So I don't see the deck. So is that part of the queue? Okay. Yeah. Okay, you're good. All right, so this is the hate mail, great mail section.
You're blocked by the ethical skeptic.
Yeah, so the ethical skeptic doesn't like me for some reason, so I continue to be blocked. So I guess that's a little bit of hate. Last week, we shared with the audience some back and forth that I had with Mindy Robinson. Mindy Robinson made a video about the Las Vegas shooting, and her boyfriend is Randy Couture from the Expendables series of movies and from Unlimited UFC fighting. Yeah, he's a jiu-jitsu champion and a hell of a fighter. And he's been in the Expendables. So his girlfriend is Mindy Robinson. She made a video about the Las Vegas shooting, but the conclusion that she came to was it was like a gun running operation or something like that. So last week we shared this with the audience where she said, I believe it was a gun deal gone bad on purpose by our own government. They wanted the Second Amendment gone. I mean, this is like
it's a bit
a made-up story. All right, so I said, okay, so who was in the helicopters shooting women in the head? Let's do a podcast together via Zoom, and I'll show you the most compelling footage I have. It's bigger than you think. Bring your boyfriend too.
This is such a weird fan. No offense, but I would have edited this.
Oh, that's you. To me, I'm okay in my masculinity.
You're inviting her to a three-way.
No, I'm inviting her to come on the show with her boyfriend so the three of us can talk about the thing. All right. Well, what happened? Well,
so she says you're a hack.
Well, look at the
Oh,
tweet above it first. So somebody responded and said you should add I am John Cullen to your watch list. Here's the playlist to some of his work. So he shares
wow.
this with now look who else is on the distribution though. Joe Lombardo.
Huh.
All right, so yeah, so Joe
Oh,
Lombardo's getting
yeah.
copied on all this. Yeah, so he's well aware of what's happening.
Wow.
So her response to Stephen Briggs suggesting that Mindy should, connect with me. Why don't you go ahead and read this?
He's a hack. He got jealous, mad, and then trashed me for no reason publicly. He leaves up videos that have been debunked for clicks and complains about not getting credit. If you watch my film, he gets credit by name and face. But he wanted even more. Oh, wait, what's this? I actually wrote you months ago, John, and you ignored me? Did you ignore her?
No, I have no emails from Mindy. No. So my main email account, anybody can send me an email, right? I am John Cullen at protonmail.com. If
So
you
she
want to
says
send me
you're
an
a
email.
hack, but she basically sourced everything you said to make her documentary of your work
Yeah, and I have no emails from her.
and then come to the wrong conclusion. Oh, it's just a gun deal. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I didn't trash her. The post that I put up, we talked about it when it came out. I was trashing her audience and said, "What? None of you guys have seen my work. You're not going to tell Mindy like this is kind of like what Cullen's done." So
I just
that's who
wonder,
I was
though, if
trashing.
that subtlety was, I
No, of
don't
course
know.
it was lost on her. Of course it was. But let's go to the next thing she writes. So she then addresses it further and says, "Because he ignored me before I did it and
Wait,
trashed me
right.
after." So she feels ignored. Now, she probably misspelled my email address, thinks she sent me an
Well,
email.
maybe she's talking about communicating with you on Twitter somehow.
I wasn't on Twitter.
Right. Right. So how did she contact you? Right. I think
And I
she's just
checked.
making this all up.
Yeah, so I said, take a screenshot. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, I didn't put that. I responded to her and said, well, why don't you take a screenshot of the email that you sent me with the from and the to and the date on it so that we can all see you sent me something, back in April of whenever. No
No,
response.
she's not going to
Yeah,
do that.
right. All right, so let's move on to the next story. So that's what's happening with Mindy. So she says I'm a hack. All right, so last week we shared with the audience that this story coming out of Britain that it's suffering the worst flu season for the decade. It's like, whoa, that's what's happening over in England. That's pretty crazy. Well, if you go to the next page in the deck, Axios reports that the flu season in the United States has arrived with the highest severity in over a decade.
But they got nice
Well, wait a
balloons.
second. Haven't I been saying that and getting my videos struck for that? So this
Yeah.
is now confirming it from Axios, the highest severity in over a decade. So if something like this continues, right, at some point, right, as COVID continues to wane, at some point, one of these things is going to be bigger than the other, right? COVID can't be the biggest, worst thing forever and ever and ever and ever. At some point, something else is going to kill more people than COVID,
Yeah.
right?
Seems like it.
Like fentanyl. We know more people died from fentanyl deaths, overdoses, than died from COVID last year. That's a fact that we've already heard. But let's go to the next slide because this is a major break I want to share. Oh, do we even have time? We're out of time.
We have 1 minute.
All right. If this is the World Health Organization tracking influenza specimens in the United States year in, year out, 2017, 18, 19, 20, then influenza disappears for a year and a half or so, right?
It's probably in
That's
Joe
kind of
Biden's garage.
right. Now, tell you the truth, I don't think we've got time to share this
Okay.
break
So we'll
on
do
YouTube.
that. We'll do that on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. Don't forget about odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth. The fart snifter RV dweller hates odyssey.com, and that makes me think it's a great thing for viewer sponsors to sign up for. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes with the sponsor exclusive segment.